Hello out there, and what I have for you today is a first impressions video of these three new Kershaw offerings for 2017. And what we have are the Reverb, the Hops, and the Malt. And I'm just going to combine the first impressions video into, one big package here. Instead of breaking it up into three separate videos, talk about them all at once. I will annotate down below where each knife discussion starts, so you can sort of streamline it and jump around if you wanted to do that if one of these knives or a couple of them doesn't particularly appeal to you. All right, and just want to be clear though, before I get into the specifics of any of these knives, that all three of them will be getting like a further follow-up or treatment at some point. Sometimes with videos and knives, I will do an overview or a first impression and really feel like my opinion hasn't changed and maybe never come back to it and never do a follow-up. But with all three of these, they're all just really compelling in a number of different ways, and I'm going to need to use them a good significant amount more than just over the past couple hours for me to really have a good opinion of them. So the discussion today will be pretty brief about each knife, just giving a couple little tidbits of information, and then down the road I will follow up with either full reviews or just a few other details. All right, so for now, let's move the Hops and the Malt out of the way, and we will start with the Reverb. All right, and so the Reverb right here, as I bring in the box, it is number 1220, and this is just going to be a really lightweight, multifunctional kind of pack knife or backup, or something that you can slide into a kit, or something that you could EDC if you just want a really lightweight kind of knife. As you can see, we've got a carabiner here, so you could clip it to a bag or a pack, and then, you do have a really nice deep carry pocket clip as well. All right, and one thing that Kershaw is doing a lot of this year that they started in the past couple years is this two-tone finish. This has a titanium coating and then satin flats. All three of these knives have two tones on them, so it is pretty attractive. Really like the look of this one. As I said before, really streamlined with this 1.6 ounce weight. You have this inset frame lock, which is pretty neat in look, but unfortunately the big downside and the red flag that I have about this knife is that there is just a little bit, and I mean a little bit, of up and down play right out of the box. And that is a little bit discouraging. Definitely don't want to see that, especially when you have a lightweight knife and you have something, with this kind of locking mechanism. You want it to be really strong and secure. That said, I don't really think that it's going to be a safety issue. I shy away from knives probably faster than most when it comes to up and down play. I really hate it. But I think that this one is going to be all right, and I thought about it hard. I'm not going to return this. I'm going to try to use it and see how this knife holds up, and if that play increases or if we're able to get a really good amount of use, and if it'll just stay steady. So that's what this whole test process is going to be with this knife. So I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to see what the quality of this is. And then getting back to just the overall characteristics of the knife, we have a really neat scale here. It is really skeletonized. We've got G10 with a carbon fiber laminate over the top. And yeah, just a really nice finish and look to that as you get from, the G10 to the carbon fiber. It's just a good looking knife all across the board. All right, and one thing I want to do before I move on to the Hops is bring in the first thing that I thought of when I saw this knife. And it is actually the knife option on the Leatherman Skeletool. And as you can see, we've got basically like a similar size and shape of the knife, and then also the same kind of, frame and lockup setup. So, if you were thinking about, what does this remind me of, or, what can I compare it to? This is the first thing right off the bat, that really similar type of locking mechanism and shape. So if you imagine unhooking the knife part from the Skeletool and just having it separate, that's basically what you have here. And 1.6 ounces, pretty darn good. All right, so that's all I have about that one for now. The one thing about this, that as you can see, like the one hand opening and closing can be a little bit tough. You really have to push hard to disengage, and there are no thumb studs or anything, so two-hand opening would be best, but I mean, it is possible one-handed, as you can see right there. All right, so let's get into the hops. And the hops of these three knives was the one that I was looking forward to the most. All right, and so this is number 5515, and it is designed by a gentleman named Gustavo Cecchini, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He also designed the malt, which we'll get to in just a minute. But the hops is one that I was looking forward to the most. I really like the small kind of like tank, overbuilt, tiny little EDCs that can just pack a punch. You know, I love this style of knife. I love having it as either a backup or just a, just a small EDC. And this one is exceptionally small. You take a look at it next to the CRKT squid right here, and look at how much bigger the squid is. You know, so the hops is a pretty small knife, but it is not particularly thin for its size. You know, it is a thick one, but it's extremely attractive and just a cool overall design. And I was hoping that the level of function would match just the quality of the aesthetics. Now, if you look at it, you've got a really nice looking blue pocket clip here, and then the blue standoffs up top. So just a very cool design. And then when you close the knife, the flipper is a pretty far extended bottle opener, which is a neat addition, but also a concern when you look at this one, wondering how that's going to affect the way it carries, because this knife is pretty darn compact if you take away this flipper. You know, and that sort of makes it jut out. So I just wonder how that's going to be to carry, and sort of looking forward to finding out about that. Now, the one concern that I have about this knife is actuating it is too easy. It opens too easy. The amount of pressure that you have to put on that flipper in order to open it, I mean, it doesn't hold in. So I mean, detent, I mean, it's just not. I don't know. I'm not generally a nervous person, but I'm concerned that this one might just fire in my pocket, you know, with any kind of pressure on it, because I'm barely putting any kind of force behind that flipper, and it just flies open. So a little bit concerned with that. And it's one of those things where, you know, since this is a brand new knife, I don't know if everybody else's is going to be like this, or if it's just, you know, something that is a concern of mine on this particular example of the line. So something I'll definitely have to take a look at as I continue to use it, and as other reviews come out. You know, I will be following up with that. But again, this is the one that I was most excited about. So hopefully that pans out really well, and that opening issue doesn't turn out to be anything big. You take a look at the way this is going to be in the hand. Only a 2 or 3 finger grip here, but it's still pretty darn comfortable. And you could, if you needed to, choke up middle finger down here, and then, you know, have a really good grip up on the blade itself for some detail work. So I think this would be a very good, useful knife still. And, you know, having the really attractive design and then having something that is actually still good to cut with is, you know, a nice little bonus, because that's what we want, you know, a little bit of everything. This is definitely a different looking kind of knife. All right, so again, this one will most likely get a full review in the future. Probably the first one that I'll talk about out of these three. So, and then finishing up, we have got the malt. All right, and if you didn't notice already, like the malt and the hops beer references, you know, brothers when it comes to the ingredients needed to brew beer, and that probably has something to do with the fact that there is a bottle opener here, a good little connection between these two knives. But talking about the malt of these three knives was the one that I wasn't really looking forward to. And when I was adding all these knives in my cart online on Blade HQ, actually where I got them, I just thought, hell with it, let's get this one and see. And the thing that sort of was pushing me away from this knife at first was just the fact that I don't particularly love the Tanto blade shape, and then, you know, just the different shape of the edge is not particularly, like, it's not for me. I would much rather have a round belly and not an angular kind of edge. And, you know, that was a turnoff. And then, you know, just looking at the general shape and design, I was like, well, I'm going to have something just like that already. So, you know, let's not worry about it. We'll avoid the malt. But when it came down to it, I said, let's have the two brothers and take a look at them next to each other. And gosh, I am glad that I did. All right, really glad that I did, because this one, first impression, is the best of the three. All right, I like this one a lot. I like the ergonomics of it a whole lot. It fits really good in the hands. And as you can see, you've got this two-tone effect on this one as well. Really good in the hands. And we don't have a forward choil, but we do have a really nice spot that isn't sharpened, that you can just rest your finger, and it feels perfectly safe. Feels perfectly safe. Keep it snug against the back of where like the flipper is right here. And it's a good area to choke up where you won't cut yourself. So I really like that. Any time that I'm able to have like that kind of aspect to the ergonomics, it really helps me out. All right, the look of it, it's just really attractive. You know, it's been called a futuristic design. I like the blue accent up top with the backspacer. It's just a cool, different looking kind of knife. All right, it is particularly heavy though. And one thing actually that I really want to note about this is that Kershaw's website and Blade HQ both have this weighing in at 4.5 ounces, and that's not true. This weighs in at 5.1 ounces on my scale. And the other weights that we had for the other two knives, the 1.6 ounces of the Reverb, and I don't think I mentioned 3.1 ounces for this Hops, those were right in line on my scale with what the website said. So it's really not a calibration issue. It's just a misprint from my perspective. So 5.1 ounces. It's a heavy knife without a doubt. You know, stainless steel frame lock. Yeah, a lot of heft to it, but it does feel good in the hands, like I said, and it is pretty darn comfortable. You know, another blue pocket clip. Again, a very cool look to it. So functionality plus the attractiveness of it, really impressed with that. And then last but not least, the thing that was my biggest concern and the thing that makes me like this knife the most is that a lot of times with Tantos, you know, especially when you have the edge direction changing closer to the tip, you know, you'll be like slicing with a knife or cutting with a knife, and then, you know, you have to stop your cut as you make your way to the different point in the edge. But I was able to slice, you know, just slicing paper and just cutting with this knife, and the transition when you get to where this edge changes is seamless. Right? It's almost as if it's just a curved belly. So really happy with that, just the way that it's going to use. So that is something that I'm definitely going to be focused on as I use this knife, and something I'll touch on further in the review. All right, so that is basically all I have about these knives, just to give a first look. All right, so like I said, we have the Hops, the Malt, and the Reverb. All right, here are those boxes again: Hops 5515, Malt 5520, and then the Reverb up at the top here with the 1220. All right, so any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, be sure to let me know in the feedback down below. Here is that Hops one more time. Also, guys, just a ton of stuff is on the way. This is getting to be a pretty hectic time with the amount of knives that are coming in and out, and the stuff that I'm picking up. So just going to be a lot of videos, and then a lot of the other kinds of videos that were more general, with like the gentleman's carry that I'm talking about doing, and the video about clones and counterfeits. You know, so a lot of reviews and then a lot of those discussion type of videos all on the way. So I'm going to be pumping those videos out as quickly as possible for you. So anything that you need to see from me or any questions that you have, let me know, but I will talk with you soon. Thanks again. Take care.